Call it Labor Day, May Day, Workers' Day. Today, we share that, well, knowledge that there is dignity in labor. Good morning and welcome to your Perfect Day Start to the Morning Brief. I'm Kayode Okikulu.
Well, call it a day that your efforts will be acknowledged and hopefully rewarded. Good morning. Welcome to your Perfect Morning Starter right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koga.
And I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. Thank you as always. The first day in the month of May, Workers' Day, and of course is the day we have to start taking stock of the stewardship of the persons we elected in May 2023. Midterm is here upon us, so it's now time to maybe tone down a bit of the politics at some point and begin to look at the books, how far and how well. Guys?
Oh yes, there will be a lot of that for the National Assembly. Maybe that will be in June. The elections, yes, took place early in the year, but they were inaugurated or they were sworn in, whatever the case may be, for the executives in May. So you see a lot of that this week, but that's not a takeaway from the fact that today is Labor Day, Workers' Day. It's a public holiday right here in Nigeria. So across the country, the nation's capital, you see workers marching, just basically making a renewed call for better working conditions, better wages, and I think, honestly, we're far from there at this point. I know there will be minimum wage renegotiation this year, but I think it's good that we have this day. Some say that it's just functionary. These days come and go and things remain the same, but I'm glad we have these days to have these conversations. For me, I think we need to have a conversation around our wage, the wages that workers get in Nigeria. And we always make this joke that if people were to do like a conversion of their salaries, convert it to dollars, even if you've gotten raises over the past few years, if you were to do like a conversion, for a lot of people at that level, you realize that they're earning less than they were earning 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, even though they've had increases in Naira. But in dollar terms, they're earning way less. And these are the issues, guys.
Well, it's that day for stock taking, as Jeffrey has said, is midterm. So we take an inventory, good time to take an inventory of how far so far with regards to the promises made by the administration. And speaking of promises, we may go over and over again, to all of the areas, but let's just narrow it down since it's May Day to, what the subnationals have promised. And it's a good time, to remind the governors that labor, according to reports by, some of our colleagues in the print media, are looking to, the governors to make good their promises of paying the minimum wage in spite of the grand figures that we saw after the negotiations towards the end of last year. About 20 governors are yet to commence the 70,000 Naira minimum wage benchmark. And according to those reports, some of those states include Zamfara, Sokoto, Gombe, just to mention a few. And so this is a good time to go beyond the rhetorics that we will see, in national stadiums today, in state stadia today, about improvement of the welfare of workers, commitments that do not particularly, carry, detailed practical payments of salaries, arrears, bonuses, wage award. Let's see the governors make good their promises beyond this point. And let's see, some more vibrance from the state executives of the NLC, the TUC, because it appears as if some of those unions are being cowered, beneath the fear of, what the state governors can do to, labor at that level. So let's see some more vibrance. Let's see some more activism. Let's see some more commitment to the welfare of workers beyond the normal rhetoric that we'll hear today, Labor Day. Jeffrey.
Absolutely. So we will be doing as much as we can to take stock of the stewardship of all of the persons who were elected, especially the governors, the president, which is always in focus at the end of the day. While they are busy defecting for their own political interests, we'll continue to look at them with the X-ray. Yesterday, guys, my governor, the governor of Akwa Ibom State, has dropped a stronger hint of his defection. So he's been causing some furor in the state, where he was giving an analogy as to the effect that, if you want to travel to Lagos or Abuja, and you were supposed to use the Ibom Air, and for some reason, technical reasons, the bomb air cannot fly, and there is an airpiece somewhere ready to fly to Lagos, would you rather say, I must go through bomb air, I'll go home, wait, and then come back when the bomb air is ready? I'd rather jump on airpiece and go to the meeting or that urgent meeting you want to have, say in Lagos or Abuja. So it's telling the people, forget what is written on the plane, whether airpiece or a bomb air, just get on the aircraft that is ready to move. Literally talking about the internal crisis within the People's Democratic Party. So people have said now that that is a clear-cut direction that, hey, this is maybe this is like a precursor, just parables ahead of his formal defection from the PDP to the All Progressives Congress. But I will maintain that all of these are for personal reasons. This alignment, all of this. And there's something playing out. We're not going to say it yet, but we're watching the space critically to see what 2027 is going to play out, because a state like Delta State, a state like Akwa Ibom State, they are default PDP state. Hold election tomorrow, the PDP will win this election most likely, because just like Lagos, governorship, there are states like that all over the world. There are states that are belong to, let me not use the word belong to, that a particular political party is very strong. So all of this is, we need to look at INEC critically, we need to look at the police critically, we need to look at all the elements that put election together, including the judiciary, because 2027 is going to be quite interesting. That you're seeing all of this movement, there's something up there that you may not know, but our job is to help you understand what is playing out. But so in case you see the governor defect, he's already told you that airpiece is the way to go in his own parable, guys.
But don't forget that even when you switch, airpiece can delay. They can cancel the flights.
And Kayode, what if airpiece and Ibom Air are marriages? Would you switch just
No. Clearly,
of
they are all airlines, so the
well,
marriages
I'm just, trying to make another, comparison with those, with that symbolism, so to speak. So if it were marriages, would you switch just because of some delay or inconvenience?
And that's why.
So that's why, these defections are tantamount to political prostitution, sometimes, more often than not.
These guys are just trying to survive. If we want to talk about Bola Tinubu, 2003, the PDP played the fast one on him. He didn't give up. He stood his ground with ACN and rebuilt the party. 2019, I know how hard Nyesom Wike fought to stay as governor of the state. So we can go on as to people who had that federal might against them in that sense, but they stood their ground in their political party and said, we're going to stay here and fight and see how it plays out. So all of this is just, in my view, political laziness and lame excuses to run.
Jeffrey, it's ironical
it's what it is.
Members of the ruling party are repeatedly making reference to the Bola Tinubu example, how he stood strong with the Alliance for Democracy all the way to the ACN, and that formed part of the fulcrum that we now
that is what
have
made
as
him
the
what he
APC.
is today.
But they're not calling on the governors who are defecting to toe the same path, to show the same example.
They're not going to force
That's
them.
ironical.
APC, look, if you're in the APC, won't you be happy? Somebody, whether they are coerced, they are blackmailed, or they voluntarily come to your party, the more the merrier. You can't be blaming somebody for your own crisis. Fix your house. So if you say they are threatening you, or they are using EFCCs to chase you, maybe Udom or Okowa, whatever, face your fear and deal with it.
Precisely, but they're unable to. They don't have the liver.
Bola Tinubu was put. You remember President Bola Tinubu, then Governor Bola Tinubu, was put in there. What they call the CCB. You remember that popular picture? They investigated him for all kinds of corruption and allegation. So, all this generation of politicians, good luck to them. But as we said, what is the difference? Whether they're in APC or they're in PDP, they are not driven by ideology. They just have personal interest, with the greatest sense of respect to them. So ours is to help the people stay focused on what is important. As I said, even President Bola Tinubu, if he defects tomorrow, it's none of my business. I won't be shocked. We is to help them know what is happening with the economy, security, their personal welfare, the cost of living. That is our business.
The conversation happening, at the usual places Nigerians gather on social media about all of these things, and that's what we're really all about. And on this Labor Day, well, we're talking about improved welfare for workers, which is one of the results that we're looking forward to amidst all of the defections and alignments, realignments, coalitions, and the rest. So The celebration of Workers' Day today, trade unions across the country will be renewing their calls for improved welfare for workers at the national and state levels amid rising inflation and economic hardship.
And apart from that, we'll be looking at the results, as we say time and again. And so there's a huge humanitarian situation in the country as a result of the challenge of insecurity. So wherever you look in some parts of the north, central, or the northeast, Plateau, Benue, Kwara, and other states, there's an escalation of the humanitarian crisis. So what exactly is the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management doing to salvage the situation? We put those important questions through to the Minister of States today on behalf of these displaced persons, and we hope to get important answers.
Absolutely. We're also going to be looking at the West African Examination Council proposed CBT by the federal government, how this will play out. We see this when it comes to JAM and all of that. So we examine what this really means for the education sector, especially the young ones who are trying to get into university via getting all of their credit score at the secondary level.
So there you have it. That's a snapshot of the major conversations we'll be having on the show this morning. We're also talking art as well. It's a public holiday, okay? So it's a day you get to just relax. So we'll talk art. I mean, look at that, pointillism. So it's something that you will definitely want to know about. You can be a part of the show on WhatsApp as always. And yes, we're going to show you the question of the day, but I don't want us to miss this, guys. Something remarkable. Something groundbreaking happened yesterday. The NJC had a meeting, and guess what? They made some very wide-reaching, far-reaching decisions. First, they directed the Imo State Governor to reverse the appointment of the acting Chief Judge 1. That's Imo State Governor Hope Uzodimma, the APC Governor, and the leader of the Progressive Governors Forum. Yeah. That's the PGF 1. But guess what? They also suspended 3 judicial officers, and Justice Inyang, then Justice Inyang Eko was also suspended. We'll get into some of the details, but these are very, very far-reaching issues. So it's interesting to see that the NJC is wielding the big stick. It's something that we've talked about time and again. But not to worry, we'll get into all of those details for you on the show, just to give you heads up of some of the things to expect on the show.
Absolutely.
The NJC wielding the big
Those are the
stick.
things we want to see. I know that a few days ago, the CJN, Kekereokun, the Chief Justice herself, had said, look, don't be bringing frivolous, petitions against judges, because when you investigate them and at the end of the day they are not found guilty, they are traumatized, it looks like you're trying to intimidate them. I'm happy that just a few days after, we're seeing the NJC saying, okay, for the ones that we found to be guilty, these are the punishment. And sometimes we see a slap on the wrist and all of this. So the NJC, commendable for what they've done. Suspend, some of them should literally be, I don't know what they use in the law. Is it dismissed to send them packing in that sense? I don't know what their procedure is in that sense. But it's important because if the system fails to the point where even right now, whatever comes out of our courts is debatable, people don't really trust it, people feel something happened behind the scene and all of that, it's not good for democracy. So whatever they can do to rebuild confidence in the people, it is very, very important. So I must commend them. That is the same thing we must do with INEC, which is why I would say I will never forgive Professor Mahmoud Yakubu for the failure, unforgivable failure of his leadership at the presidential election last year, in the 2023 general election, because I felt like 1993, God gave us a chance. We did the freest and fair election. 30 years after, we had another opportunity. If only that technology had worked for us to just see real time what was going on and not the glitch excuse he gave and all of that, perhaps the people would have had more confidence in the system. So I must commend the agency. The next direction should be the INEC in that sense. His term, thank God, is going to end in December, so you can just go. let's find somebody else to do the job.
Jeffrey, I'd rather that we're not in a hurry to commend the NJC. I'd like to see a consistency in this strength of character beyond the discipline of judges, but also to critical cases that have to do with the will of the people. For instance, elections, for instance, strength of character also in dispensing with cases of prosecution for financial crimes of politically exposed persons. So where there are, issues of compromise, inducement of judges there, we'd like to see this big stick wielded across board, not just in isolated cases of appointment, of wrong appointments of chief judges of states. So those issues are very, very critical to run through the hierarchy of the and systems of the judiciary.
Okay, let's get to the dailies, guys. I think the dailies we have for you is the Vanguard newspaper, and it leads with what we talked about, guys. Anxiety in PDP as Akwa Ibom governor hints on quitting. Wow, that's a strong one. Hints on quitting. It's no longer defection. It's the way the Vanguard puts it. Anyway, the rider, don't flee, fight for democracy. PDP begs governors. I'm not aware of defection plans. Akwa Ibom PDP chair is joining us soon. APC scribe. Only a strong northern candidate can challenge Tinubu. Dele Momodu. PDP ready to reclaim power in 2027. Baraje. So who do we listen to, guys? Isn't this the riders? I like the riders. Everybody's firing from all cylinders. So let's see what plays out. He's, from what he gave as that analogy in Uyo, whatever that event took place, he was trying to say that PDP has some issues. And so if to perhaps further his ambition, looking for a vehicle that is ready to take him there is not a bad idea, even though he has not clearly said it, I'm defected, I'm not defected. But he's hinted to say, I'll support the president for a second term. He's rubbed my back, I rub your back. He's been using parables to speak on all of these things at the end of the day. But I think we've spoken about this defection. And it is as simple as daylight. It's about political survival. But when I look at Governor Ino and I look at Akwa Ibom State, which I'm quite familiar with, it's difficult to see how he's, quote unquote, maybe afraid of maybe
the justification for defection, you mean?
To lose the election, because this is default PDP state. It's like changing the DNA of the state. But, these are politicians. They may be seeing what we're not seeing. Perhaps they don't want what happened to Rivers State in 2019, where they didn't have a candidate, where they now use SPV. I'm talking about the APC, or what happened in Zamfara, where internal crisis in the APC led to Matawale coming in as governor, which because he came second. So whatever it is they are saying, but we just feel that if you believe in the ideologies of your party, if you have any, sit down, fight for your party. We have examples like Bola Tinubu, the president now. We have examples like even Nyesom Wike, when I agree with his politics. I know the battle he fought in 2019 to survive a re-election against a federal government, quote unquote. So anyway.
Jeffrey, you have said something very important that we must reflect on ahead of the 2027 elections. You said that defecting is tantamount to changing the DNA of the state. In the case of Delta State, for instance, now I'll be waiting to look at the results of the governorship election in that state, and this defection, we'll see a lot about it. So if the APC wins the election in that state, that says to me that the DNA of any state is the DNA
of the politician.
Of the politician. Let's go to another paper this morning, and it's the Guardian newspaper, which of course trails on the issue, the main issue of the day, the Guardian newspaper. Take a look at the headline. Agitations over cost of living crisis, workers' welfare on May Day. And there you have the actors on the front page, the NLC president, the TUC president, of course, the governor, and, another state executive, I believe. So, of course, well, good time to remind Mr. President that we're yet to get that living wage that he promised Nigerians. All the variations of the minimum wage that the state executive promised, we reiterate that Labour is saying that the governors have not made good their promise of paying the living wage. So let's see action rather than rhetoric, today being Labour Day. But there are other stories on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning. that we may also need to reflect on. Take a look at what seems to be at the top of the big story: pandemonium at Port Harcourt refinery as EFCC quizzes acting MD. So what exactly is happening with the refineries? You might want to, look on the inside pages for details. Page 3 is where you find details. And just to add also that, as global oil prices tumble, we might be expecting some further dip in the price of petroleum products back home. But of course, that will also have impact on, foreign exchange earnings of the country. That's it from the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Kaide, you have the next story.
Oh yes, let's go over to Nigerian News Direct. I think we could just talk more about May Day on the front pages this morning. News Direct leads with May Day. Of course, you must continue to call for accountability, good governance. Atiku tells labor unions. Faults Tinubu's government over workers' welfare neglect. It's a page 3 read, and I bet you this is something you will hear a lot today, and hopefully it's something that would see positive results when it comes to the wages bit, really. Because, yes, Bukola, workers need a living wage, not just a minimum wage as it is right now. So page 3 of the Nigerian News Direct gives you more insights into that one. There's a couple more stories on the front page, and I'll just mention one for you. FG set to finalize 1.5 trillion naira concession deal for 9 major highways. That's coming from Edo, the Minister of Finance. So what does this entail? What I see in that story is just tolling. Once you see concession, you see highways, just concession plus highway equals tolling. But it's something that people have said is inevitable, really. If you want to maintain some of these infrastructure, then there needs to be some sort of revenue generation to maintain it. So we'll see how that plays out. But that's a look at the front page of the Nigerian News Direct.
All right, so maybe we'll head to the Daily Independent newspaper. Daily Independent newspaper. Citizens gagged can't express themselves freely. NLC laments. Citizens gagged can't express themselves freely. NLC laments. So that is how the Daily Independent is leading this morning, according to what the NLC is saying. So if you want to know exactly what the inner pages of the Daily Independent is out to go, because certain persons have believed that the posturing of the current leadership of the country is hostile to dissenting voices. So, but the government has said no, there is freedom of expression and all of that. But the NLC is saying that citizens are gagged, can't express themselves freely because you want to protest. Police is all over the place. Sometimes you're being persuaded to shelve the protest and all of that. So these are the reasons why people are concerned. Of course, the issue of the Cybercrime Act and all of that. And a country is any place where there's that freedom of expression, then there's no longer democracy. I think that should be in section 39 or 40 of the Constitution when it comes to freedom of expression.
And you know how we jokingly say that it's your freedom of expression that is guaranteed, but freedom of what happens afterwards is not guaranteed. So for those who sit in the comfort of a home or an office, and put out content that is critical of government, which is, needed, in order to demand accountability, for the approach of governance and the policies of government and its consequences, But we've seen time and again the police, under the guise of the Cybercrime Act, go after some individuals, and this leaves much to be desired. Our own colleagues have not been exempt, from the use of this act. For prosecution, for arrest, sometimes for intimidation and harassment. We've seen some of our colleagues arrested under the guise of this act, and civil society across board has been calling for a review of this legislation, to take out that particular element that is, that the authorities are using to intimidate the generality
just
of the
before
people.
we leave the Daily Independent, there's page 7, read there as well, that says Rivers, lawyers protest in Abuja seek Fubara's reinstatement. Lawyers protest in Abuja seek Fubara's reinstatement. So it's over 2 months. Over a month and going on 2 months now since that state of emergency was declared in Rivers State, and there has been that back and forth. The House of Representatives ad hoc committee that oversights the administrator had their first meeting after some reschedulings had happened with the administrator, but nothing came out of it. He said he needed time in settling in, so he needed time to prepare his brief properly. But a lot is still going on in the state and all of that, so they went behind closed doors and granted him his request. So we don't know when next they are meeting. But for everybody who is watching this space, what is more important is to seek peace and reconciliation for all the warring party. The dramatic personnel here being Nyesom Wike and his political godson, Fubara, the governor Fubara, who is now suspended with his deputy, and members of the House of Representatives who are loyal to Nyesom Wike. I think that should be the bigger conversation. Yeah. We can debate about the state of emergency and suspension of elected officials. I have my own understanding of the law, and I've been very clear about it. But the lawyers are protesting. I don't know for how this will play out eventually, but I don't think that what has happened is really what is going on in River State is what you call an uneasy calm, and anything can just bust things. But we pray that the peace remains. We don't want bloodshed. We don't want anything to happen.
We've seen a respite, of the protests by women in different colors and in different shades and under different umbrellas. But it appears as if there is really no, peace, that sense of peace in River State yet. What may happen in the coming days is what we're not quite sure of, but we've heard hints in the last week or two about the governor visiting Mr. President while he was on vacation outside the country, and there are negotiations ongoing. So the question is, what will be the fallout of that purported visit to Mr. President in order to secure a permanent solution to the political crisis in Rivers State? Will it be another defection, which would be viewed in quite an interesting manner, considering how this political crisis has become a rather divisive subject in that part of the country, which also hosts Nigeria's huge resource.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Well, there's a story on the front page of the Daily Independent, just as an update. That's the case concerning Aisha Chimogu, alleged 8.7 billion naira money laundering. Court orders EFCC to release Aisha Chimogu. So yeah, that's the update to that one. Basically, there are bail conditions that she'll be released based on, recall, she was arrested on Tuesday, April the 29th, even though her lawyer says, well, she returned to Nigeria to continue the case based on the court order. So the case has been, directed all parties rather to report tomorrow to ensure that all of the bail conditions and all of that are met or otherwise. So that's the update on that. And I must mention, guys, that it's interesting to see the EFCC giving airtime on X. So EFCC from time to time puts out quizzes, and they give out 5,000 naira worth of airtime to winners, depending on how you win. And you can see the comments there. So it's quite interesting, this approach by the EFCC doing giveaway. The question is, will we see more agencies toe that line? And more importantly is what impact this will have on the fight against corruption.
Perhaps they're just trying to be, I will not forget, was it EFCC now? I think it's EFCC. There's a gentleman that used to handle
the X handle.
Yes, the X handle. It was Twitter then. Yeah. Very fantastic gentleman who, he gave a human face to the handle. Literally, it's like you're communicating with someone. Yeah. That gentleman, I think should be rehired and paid better, because he gave a face, because the EFCC was perceived in a certain way and all of that. I'm not saying the perception is totally gone, but that period we could communicate with the EFCC.
The ego,
yes, always use that. So it was quite beautiful. So perhaps they are trying to reinvent that to see how they can be people friendly and all of that, because the truth is that without the people, you really can't do much. If they don't give you information, if they don't whistle blow, if there's no confidence in the institutions, you know, forget the politicians for a moment. The institutions are more critical in all of this. So
his name actually F. Shaw. I think that's his name.
Yeah, okay, that's the guy's name, right?
Yeah. So there was actually a major unveiling that was done because people kept asking, who is this guy? So,
who is this guy? So I think I personally miss him because you just go there sometimes just to read what he's doing, not because you're trying to interact. So it's important that they have this human face that, okay, we're in this together. But if you steal government money, we'll catch you anyway. But if there's something you need to tell us, we are ready to listen to you. Just the rule of law is the lowest hanging fruit. For whatever reforms the president is doing, if corruption is not tackled and the rule of law is not upheld, this reform, I can guarantee you, will fail. You understand? There is no, if you bring an angel to still put this reform and even do it better, if those two things are not sorted, corruption and rule of law, no reform will work. So if we don't see strong direction, it's anything strong in that direction, I mean corruption even in election malpractices and all of that. All of that is all part of managing and eradicating corruption. Else, whatever reform is being put out, it's just going to be an academic exercise, putting Nigerians under unnecessary hardship. And all of the
connection, you know, of the EFCC, the deliberate attempt at connecting with the people must be commended. And we might as well, you know, demand that approach, you know, to institutional reform from other agencies of government as well, i.e. the transmission company, INEC, you know, and the other agencies that have bearing in one form or the other with the Nigerian people. But for the EFCC, more importantly, the taxpayers' money that are being recouped as a result of the fight against corruption should be made to work for the people. So we've seen assets recovery, we've seen monies recovered, but have we seen those monies work for the Nigerian people? That's what is more important this morning, beyond the handouts, but not saying that the attempts at connecting with the people, you know, through quizzes is not welcome.
I think let's go to The Guardian. We have one more time, one more for The Guardian. The Guardian
we took The Guardian already.
Oh, we took The Guardian. Oh, really?
Something else on the front page. But there you go. That's it with a look at the dailies. Yes, we're still tracking that big story, the suspension of 3 judicial officers for 1 year. In fact, one of them was placed on a watch for 5 years, and one of them, that's Justice Jenny Yang from Uyo Division, Justice Yageko from, well, I say Middle Belt now, as Abuja, and then you had another justice from Zamfara, I believe, and it's quite interesting. Some of the cases, guys, date back to 2021. For Justice Yageko, for example, they said that the case was heard, or rather the parties were not heard, and then a judgment was given in that case. For Justice Jenny Yang from Uyo, it was ex parte. You know, this ex parte palaver that we talked about then. So it's good to see, but as Bukola said, it will be even better to see consistency. But I must commend the NJC for wielding the big stick. I think it is great to see. It's part of the move to restore confidence.
So I just want to read an excerpt. Furthermore, Honorable Justice Nyanko of the Federal High Court, Abuja Division, has also been placed on suspension for 1 year without pay. His lordship was placed on a watch list for 5 years and barred from elevation for 5 years. And they reeled out the case that led him into all of this, that demanded such strong wielding of stick and reprimand in that sense. So it is important to put our judicial officers in check. So I know Bukola wants more. We all want more in that sense, but when they make one step in the right direction, we must commend them. Their homework, they've looked at the laws, they looked at the things guiding them, and they're very clear to the effect that these judges erred in law and is affecting the integrity. The integrity is everything in the judiciary. If that goes, then we don't have a judiciary. So commendable for them to do all of this. So we're going to be watching and following up as well, because Kaide, Bukola, sometimes the things you see in our courts is very shocking. You know, when you go to court, one of the very first things a judge is supposed to look at is jurisdiction. Is this the right court? And all of that. But I see sometimes a judge will listen to a case and give a ruling in that sense to a case outside the jurisdiction. So it's very disturbing. We're happy for this development. We want more because less Nigerians be confident in the institutions. Nigerians have lost hope in the politicians, lost hope in the institutions. So if we begin from the institutions, maybe we can't throw away the country. This is our country. We will not run away. We love our country. This is why we speak truth to power at all times. Whether it's convenient for anyone or not is none of our business. We'll continue to speak truth to power based on fact alone, not sentiment, because that's the only way we can make a country better. No country is perfect, but we can get better than this.
So speaking of speaking truth to power, what are you saying about some of the actions of your elected representatives? Perhaps we could start with the hint by Governor Eno of defection to the APC, or what has been interpreted as a result of what he has said. So let's have that video that Jeffrey talked about earlier. Let's have that soundbite.
By the way, it's in the BBO.
Control. But maybe you don't play the car Lagos from Uyo. I'm working airpiece. I agree from air. From air gave me that car. Ever getting to the white medic pack. But airpiece Moroda did a Lagos. No, but yeah, council, I will give my car Lagos over giving you airpiece. Here to make it here today. My dear, from air, my car Lagos. Abanam throw doesn't plane. Banyang Kalegos. Boromayam Bugasak Yamiki Inam. Ibombe man wadi yama. Amano abi furu semfena ya arok. Boromayam bandu bele. Dok plane ba kisom nam sombo.
I know you need help, naturally.
We have an BBO person in the house, so take it away.
That means, would you do that? So he gave the analogy with the airpiece and Ibom Air. You're traveling to Lagos for a meeting, to Abuja for a meeting. It's urgent, you need to get there. You find out that Ibom Air, that is your original flight, something is wrong, technical reasons, and you cannot fly with Ibom Air because it has to be fixed, but airpiece is on standby, ready to take you to your destination. Would you say, oh, because it's Ibom Air, it's my state and all of that, I'll go home, wait for Ibom Air to be fixed? Won't you jump on airpiece and go to your destination because that meeting is important? And that's why I now said, that means, would you do that? No. So that's, in other words, forget what is written on the plane, whether it's airpiece or Ibom Air. As long as it can take you to your destination, just jump on it and go sort out that meeting. So that is the biggest conversation right now in Akwa Ibom State, saying, finally the governor has said, India, by extension, is saying, we may be taking another ride ahead of 2027. So, and some people are even politically playing around it that he's demarketing Ibom Air.
Let's hope that somewhere along the line. So
that's what the governor was trying to say,
after the switch to flights, that the airpiece does not develop engine failure by a stroke of accident. But I'm not talking about in actual fact, for the symbolism now, to be clear.
They said the flight may be delayed. But let's read.
Or cancelled, as the case may be.
Let's just read a thought from somebody on X. Lincoln says, this is not news. Nigerians are aware that you are defecting. Everybody will move from the PDP. So, because the PDP, anyway. You have the, okay, Bukola, you're the one that has the next spot.
Okay, Cardinal Station is the next user this morning who says, the best news that can come out of Akwa Ibom State and River State is for them to reject APC governorship candidates, whether incumbent or not, in 2027. Well,
and take a look at Collins's comment saying, when they need votes, they come to the people. As soon as they get power, they align amongst themselves. That's from Collins, the next user on this one.
So let's go to the next talking point this morning, and I believe it has to do with that trending video of the Alaafin of Oyo, the newly installed Alaafin, Oba Abimbola Akim Owade I, who declined to stand in greeting for the Ooni of Ife at a public event. So there you have it. Well, we could talk about how this is deeply rooted in history, what the Oni represents. Of course, we know that that stool and, of course, the location represents the origin of Yoruba civilization. And, you know, they are the descendants of the father of the Yoruba race, Oduduwa. And, you know, the Alafi also is supposedly, you know, the grandson. When you go back to history, the earliest holders of the stools are descendants of the grandson of Oduduwa. So we could talk about how this is rooted in history and what is going on here, what is informing the refusal. Yeah,
and all of the
connection, you know, of the EFCC, the deliberate attempt at connecting with the people must be commended. And we might as well, you know, demand that approach, you know, to institutional reform from other agencies of government as well, i.e. the transmission company, INEC, you know, and the other agencies that have bearing in one form or the other with the Nigerian people. But for the EFCC, more importantly, the taxpayers' money that are being recouped as a result of the fight against corruption should be made to work for the people. So we've seen assets recovery, we've seen monies recovered, but have we seen those monies work for the Nigerian people? That's what is more important this morning, beyond the handouts, but not saying that the attempts at connecting with the people, you know, through quizzes is not welcome.
I think let's go to The Guardian. We have one more time, one more for The Guardian. The Guardian
we took The Guardian already.
Oh, we took The Guardian. Oh, really?
Something else
what was that?
on the front page. But there you go. That's it with a look at the dailies. Yes, we're still tracking that big story, the suspension of 3 judicial officers for 1 year. In fact, one of them was placed on a watch for 5 years, and one of them, that's Justice Jenny Yang from Uyo Division, Justice Yageko from, well, I say Middle Belt now, as Abuja, and then you had another justice from Zamfara, I believe, and it's quite interesting. Some of the cases, guys, date back to 2021. For Justice Yageko, for example, they said that the case was heard, or rather the parties were not heard, and then a judgment was given in that case. For Justice Jenny Yang from Uyo, it was ex parte. You know, this ex parte palaver that we talked about then. So it's good to see, but as Bukola said, it will be even better to see consistency. But I must commend the NJC for wielding the big stick. I think it is great to see. It's part of the move to restore confidence.
So I just want to read an excerpt. Furthermore, Honorable Justice Nyanko of the Federal High Court, Abuja Division, has also been placed on suspension for 1 year without pay. His lordship was placed on a watch list for 5 years and barred from elevation for 5 years. And they reeled out the case that led him into all of this, that demanded such strong wielding of stick and reprimand in that sense. So it is important to put our judicial officers in check. So I know Bukola wants more. We all want more in that sense, but when they make one step in the right direction, we must commend them. Their homework, they've looked at the laws, they looked at the things guiding them, and they're very clear to the effect that these judges erred in law and is affecting the integrity. The integrity is everything in the judiciary. If that goes, then we don't have a judiciary. So commendable for them to do all of this. So we're going to be watching and following up as well, because Kaide, Bukola, sometimes the things you see in our courts is very shocking. You know, when you go to court, one of the very first things a judge is supposed to look at is jurisdiction. Is this the right court? Yeah, and all of that. But I see sometimes a judge will listen to a case and give a ruling in that sense to a case outside the jurisdiction. So it's very disturbing. We're happy for this development. We want more, because let Nigerians be confident in the institutions. Nigerians have lost hope in the politicians, lost hope in the institutions. So if we begin from the institutions, maybe we can't throw away the country. This is our country. We will not run away. We love our country. This is why we speak truth to power at all times. Whether it's convenient for anyone or not is none of our business. We will continue to speak truth to power based on fact alone, not sentiment. because that's the only way we can make a country better. No country is perfect, but we can get better than this.
So speaking of speaking truth to power, what are you saying about some of the actions of your elected representatives? Perhaps we could start with the hint by Governor Eno of defection to the APC, or what has been interpreted as a result of what he has said. So let's have that video that Jeffrey talked about earlier. Let's have that soundbite.
By the way, it's in the BBO.
Control. You Ukara. But we don't play in car Lagos from Uyo. I forget airpiece. Agree from air. From air gave me that car. Ever going to Nigeria, white Mary Park. But airpiece, Moroda, did a Lagos. No, but yeah, council, I will give my car Lagos, or I give you the airpiece. Here to make it here today, my dear, from air, my car Lagos. Abanam throw. Don't sit plane. Banyang, car Lagos. Boromanian Bugaras, a Inam. Bombe man wa di oma amanu wa bi furu semfere ya aro ba gboro me ye bandu bere do play ba gisom nam sombo.
I know you need help,
We have
naturally.
we have an BBO person in the house, so take it away.
That means, would you do that? So he gave the analogy with the airpiece and Ibom Air. You're traveling to Lagos for a meeting, to Abuja for a meeting. It's urgent. You need to get there. You find out that Ibom Air, that is your original flight. Something is wrong, technical reasons, and you cannot fly with Ibom Air because it has to be fixed. But airpiece is on standby, ready to take you to your destination. Would you say, oh, because it's Ibom Air, it's my state and all of that, I'll go home, wait for Ibom Air to be fixed? Won't you jump on airpiece and go to your destination because that meeting is important? And that's why I now said, that means, would you do that? No. So that's, in other words, forget what is written on the plane, whether it's airpiece or Ibom Air. As long as it can take you to your destination, just jump on it and go sort out that meeting. So that is the biggest conversation right now in Akwa Ibom State, saying, finally the governor has said, India, by extension, is saying, we may be taking another ride ahead of 2027. So, and some people are even politically playing around it that he's demarketing Ibom Air.
Let's hope that somewhere along the line.
So that's what the governor was trying to say,
after the switch to flights, that the airpiece does not develop engine failure by a stroke of accident. But I'm not talking about in actual fact, for the symbolism now, to be clear.
They said the flight may be delayed. But let's read.
Or cancelled, as the case may be.
Let's just read a thought from somebody on X. Lincoln says, this is not news. Nigerians are aware that you are defecting. Everybody will move from the PDP. So, because the PDP, anyway. You have the, okay, Bukola, you're the one that has the next spot.
Okay, Cardinal Station is the next user this morning who says, the best news that can come out of Akwa Ibom State and River State is for them to reject APC governorship candidates, whether incumbent or not, in 2027. Well,
and take a look at Collins's comment saying, when they need votes, they come to the people. As soon as they get power, they align amongst themselves. That's from Collins, the next user on this one.
So let's go to the next talking point this morning, and I believe it has to do with that trending video of the Alaafin of Oyo, the newly installed Alaafin, Oba Abimbola Akim Owade I, who declined to stand in greeting for the Ooni of Ife at a public event. So there you have it. Well, we could talk about how this is deeply rooted in history, what the Ooni represents. Of course, we know that that stool and, of course, the location represents the origin of Yoruba civilization. and you know, they are the descendants of the father of the Yoruba race, Oduduwa, and you know, the Alaafin also is supposedly, you know, the grandson. When you go back to history, the earliest holders of the stools are descendants of the grandson of Oduduwa. So we could talk about how this is rooted in history and what is going on here, what is informing the refusal of the Alaafin to stand in greeting of the Oni. But we can also look at it within the context of this day and age, the age, in actual fact, in number of the Oni, or the age of, in actual fact, in number of the Alaafin of Oyo. But what are you saying beyond all of this, you know, historical analysis? Let's go to the first user this morning. Oladele says they're both first-class obas, so I don't see anything wrong in what he did. Well, that's your own view.
There may be really nothing about this, actually. If you've been at events, sometimes it might be tougher to stand up, particularly if the space is tight. I mean, it's hard to really tell what happened there. Yes, what you see, you might make inferences or conclusion, but until you really know what's happening there. There are times I wouldn't want to stand if the space is tight, particularly if you're wearing an agbada. You know how tricky an agbada can be. You stand and everything just topples or you fall. So we're not quite sure what played out, but from what we see, that's what it looks like. But hey, there are like a million explanations, or possibly a million explanations to all of that. So that's it.
We've seen elder statesmen, you know, prostrate in greeting to the Oni, even in the earlier days of his installation, where there was a lot of talk about how young he is. But I think, you know, somewhere down the line, we've seen former President Olusegun Obasanjo, you know, defer in greeting to the Oni. So that also is part of the conversation about, you know, whether there is humility or lack of it in this. But let's have the next user, Jeffrey.
So this person said, have you wondered why Oyo Alaafin was used in pre-colonial administration? We were taught in government. Alaafin is the political, economic, and military ruler of Yoruba land. Oni is a spiritual, cultural, and central ruler of Yoruba land. The both of them are joint supreme kings of the Yorubas, although via ancestry, Oni is elder to the Alaafin. Okay, those are your thoughts. We will take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get to the very first conversation for the day, and that has to do with the humanitarian crisis in our country. The Minister of State will be joining us right here on the program to explore that conversation. Join us again.
Yes, it's Labor Day, it is May Day, it's Workers' Day here in Nigeria, and we'll get into all of the activities just as soon as they kick off. And the big issues also on the minds of workers and government. But there are issues that are also on the front burner and that sometimes you don't get to hear about, particularly after the cameras leave, when there are attacks in areas, once the government and cameras leave. What happens to the people who are left behind, the people who have to pick up their lives again? We can talk about Benue, we can talk about Plateau, talk about Borno, and other parts of the country where there is an obvious humanitarian issue, particularly for people who still lack basic amenities as a result of attacks and, you know, sad events in their areas. We're joined on the program by the Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. Mr. Yusuf Sununu joins us from our Abuja studio. It's good to have you on the program, Minister. And just before we get into the state of, you know, humanitarian affairs, if I could say that, for people in rural areas, rural Nigerians, I want you to speak to Nigerian workers this morning, because there's also poverty reduction in your brief. And for the average worker, as they commemorate, I wouldn't say celebrate now, as they commemorate Workers' Day, they look at their own humanitarian situation and they wonder, are we really getting better? So maybe from your own dashboard, you can speak to what government is doing and how effective it has been to improve the humanitarian situation of Nigerian workers.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kawede. And once more, let me welcome you back from the Global Disability Summit you attended, and the other panelists. I also want to say good morning to all. And good morning, Nigeria. To Nigerian workers, I want to congratulate everybody for reaching this milestone of 1st May, the Workers' Day. And in fact, it's a day that we should commemorate the resilience of Nigerian workers in giving to the nation the best they can do in their own part so that this country remain united. They are the custodian of institutional memory of this country, and they are also the ones that execute the projects and programs of government through their concerted effort. And in doing that, a lot of them also, in one way or the other, pay the supreme sacrifice of even losing their life in order to serve this country. Because as Nigerians, we must also be proud that despite challenges and numerous issues from here, both man-made and natural, the country is united and is also focused toward this. And for the president also is the political will to and actions that is being done to move the country forward and remain united is also something that we have to commend Mr. President for doing that. Generally, let us say that if you look at globally, there are a lot of issues that has to do with the economy, which has broken virtually in most places. And it's understandable because of the situation of the global impact of post-COVID-19, the ongoing war in different parts of the world, including Ukraine and Russia, Ukraine, and also if you come down to Africa, we have a lot of man-made crises like the global, like the climate change, which has really affected prediction of whatever one can do, even the aspect of human endeavor that the civil service allowed the farming. As of today, because of climate change, you cannot predict when rain will fall, how long it will last, and even if it falls, it goes to say that sometimes a very short rain is a short period of rain is can precipitate a massive flooding that will leave so many Nigerians displaced. And coupled to that also, a lot of issues, and in that case, there's also ongoing reforms to set better the economy that is broken. And in doing that, definitely it's obvious that some pains will be inflicted, and what is needed is how much we understand and how short that reforms Mr. President pursuing can be achieved, and definitely the kind of the way things are going, it won't last long, that we get it better, and Nigeria will come out much stronger.
Well, Dr. Sununu, there's a lot to talk about, your pedigree as a medical doctor. So there's also the issues around, the welfare in that sector with JAGBA and all of that. But Jeffrey Bukola.
Yes, indeed. Quite a lot to talk about as far as, supplies are concerned, the welfare, the ideal nature of some of these internally displaced persons camps across the country. I wonder if we're ready to check on the May Day celebrations, if they have commenced in the federal capital. But it's not ready, as I'm told. So let's go straight to the conversation this morning. I want you to give us a sense of, the numbers and the those registered of internally displaced persons across Nigeria's north, to be precise. And we know, particularly from the recent violence in Plateau State, that there are quite a number put up in a particular Catholic church. In Benue State also, there is a very big humanitarian situation in that state as well. So has your ministry taken an inventory of the numbers of IDPs in Plateau, in Benue, and even in the federal capital, where the presidential candidate of the Labour Party visited recently, and what your ministry is doing to ensure the comfort of these IDPs and, in fact, their productivity while they put up in those transit camps?
Well, thank you very much. Let me just say that we have taken a lot of inventories. Nationally, as of today, we all agree, and it's almost nearly 3 million Nigerians are internally displaced. And that is a very huge figure. It's almost saying that a state is displaced. While we are doing that, we are also taking into cognizance effort to see how much we can reach out to internally displaced person with the view to see how much relief can we give it to them in terms of short-term response and also in terms of our long-term response. We have started working and we have gone far to see how much can we give them a durable solution that will be able to sustain them this. Like you have mentioned, we are physically there. I was out of the country, but the minister was in Plateau State, and he has seen how much negative impact the crisis has caused. And a lot is being done and in collaboration with the ministry and NEMA and also the National Commission for National Commission for Refugee Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, to how much support we have given, and that has also been started already. But it's an ongoing project, and also not only that, some of our development partners like UNCHR, we are also working together to see how much we can do. And in fact, by tomorrow we are going to have a holistic review meeting of all the humanitarian challenges, most especially now that there is a little bit of escalation. How much can we do, and how much can you also, those who are outside the country that has demanded to come back, to repatriate them back to Nigeria. This meeting is coming up tomorrow. We are inviting some of the state government that were involved, states that are involved in this current so that together we can review the situation and see what next action can we do to reinforce what is ongoing right now.
There's a present hour need in those camps. I just want you to confirm if there has been intervention in form of supplies, sanitary conditions of these people in these camps. I want to confirm if the ministry has provided intervention through the emergency management agencies in these states.
You see, the National Emergency NEMA is not a parastatal of our ministry as of today, but we have a very good working relationship and close contact with them. At any time, there is a communication that is initiated whenever there is this, so that the emergency aspect of it, which is the core mandate of NEMA, we also support it, and then we work together to see how much we can deliver a relief. And I said, on our own part, the ministry, the minister was physically present, and he delivers relief items. And I think it's also aired in many media that people have seen. What next is when after the situation has improved, how much now the National Commission for Migrant, Refugee and Migrant and Internally Displaced Person can now come in to see how do you continue to further the post-immediate demand and also the long-term sustainable or durable solution that we are going to develop. But I want to confirm to you that not only that items were delivered, but Minister was physically there on 2 occasions.
Honorable Minister, let's zoom into Benue State yet again and talk about, I'm sure you visited, or the other minister has also visited Benue to know the extent of humanitarian crisis we're dealing with. Maybe you can help us and Nigerians understand what exactly we have on our hands in that sense. We've even had a situation where we interviewed one of the persons whose parents were still in the IDP camps, who said, even with the presence of security agencies, they are being attacked. So 2 things I want you to speak to. First, what are we dealing with? What's the scale of the humanitarian crisis we're dealing with in Benue State as of today? Second, what is the government doing to make sure that they're already out of their homes, they are also protected to the best of their ability, to the best of the military ability, to the extent that the military can protect them, where in IDP camps they can be safe and not still be vulnerable while still in IDP camp where they should be protected?
Well, what I want to say is that you must know that this kind of approach, when an emergency comes, is a multi-sectoral nature in addressing it. And this involves both security and non-security actors in the field of emergency, so that how much we can do. For the security aspect, I am sure that a lot has been done, but because I'm not in charge of the ministry, and also security issues are something that one cannot really come out to discuss what security measures is being put on place so that the miscreant cannot use it to develop an antidote to it so that they can also continue to perpetrate their notorious act of intimidating people, displacing them, and even causing loss of life. That I cannot say, I cannot discuss it in the open. But let me say that what we have currently is the statement by the President that given all the security agencies to mobilize and set into action to restore normality in those areas. And you can believe with me, and you have seen it. Now, Mr. President conveyed a most sectoral approach meeting of all the security agencies, all the chief service chiefs, national security advisor, and all those stakeholders that are relevant in restoring and maintaining and sustaining security of our nations, and also in those areas that are involved were made, and a lot of mobilization has been made to ensure that peace and normalcy is restored. And while also that peace and normalcy is being restored by security agents, on our own part, the non-security actors, we are also working, both the ministry, its agencies, and local organizations, and also in a strong collaboration with state government. We are working together to see how much relief can we do as much as possible to ensure that they are resettled, right. And then where the security situation has improved, permit to be moved back, and so that they can settle back permanently into their destination, and action to maintain them in peaceful conditions is done. So
would like to pause for a moment.
Not only a ministry.
Pardon me, Dr. Sununu, we would like to pause for a moment. We'll get back to this conversation, but you know it's Workers' Day, it's May Day here in Nigeria, and there's a lot of activity going on. So we'd like to head over to Eagle Square, where our correspondent, Emperor Simon, is live covering the activities marking this year's May Day celebration. Good morning, Emperor. You're live at Eagle Square. Speak to us. What is the atmosphere like? What are the expectations for the day, which is a big one for workers?
All right, thank you very much, Kayode, and welcome to Abuja, the city of power in Nigeria. Now, this is where Nigerian workers are expected to converge, today to celebrate the May Day. The question, however, is whether they are celebrating with excitement or they are celebrating with a sad face. However, looking at the situation here, we have, the chairs are yet to be occupied. They are still visibly empty, with only a handful of workers that have arrived at this time. And then we see security personnel that are here and carrying out checks to ensure that there is no breach of security at this place. The workers, of course, will be celebrating the day with fanfare in a way, march past, display of colorful attires that showcase the various ministries, the various vocation of the workers. And so in a moment, maybe perhaps 9-10, we expect that this place will be full. But at this time, you can see the camera will just quickly show you workers that are trying to clean up the chairs. Those are the chairs that will be used by the dignitaries expected at this place. So the venue, the Eagle Square, is still being set up at this time, and we're here to monitor every bit of what will happen.
All right, bro. Thank you for your reporting. We'll touch base with you as soon as there's some level of activities happening right there at the Eagle Square. Let's get back to the conversation with the Honorable Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Mr. Yusuf Sununu. Honorable Minister, thank you for staying with us. So let's, as we begin to wind down, let's talk about the poverty reduction element. We can begin to play with the numbers at different years in Nigeria as to the level of poverty. So when the president called both of you and said, look, this is the ministry I want you to handle for us, and this is your brief as to how you can handle this to reposition the fortune of the people besides responding to humanitarian crisis. What is the ministry doing in terms of poverty reduction? I know you say it's an interagency movement, interagency relations that can be used to execute some of these plans of government. But we hardly speak about the poverty reduction element of your ministry. Maybe it's a good time to walk us through what is being done so far so we can appreciate what the government is doing.
Okay. In our own ministry, when we are saddled with that responsibility, what we need first is to take stock of both asset and liability of the ministry in terms of human personnel resource, in terms of material, and also in terms of how much can we galvanize the ministry to change the narratives in terms of getting back the trust of Nigerians to believe in the ministry, and also of the international community to also see the ministry in a better light now that can be trusted as a partner that can move the reduction of poverty of Mr. President, which is one of the key components of the 8-point agenda forward. And in doing that, we have found a lot of issues where there were a lot of policies that are there, but there are some misconceptions or in terms of execution, shortcomings that need to be corrected. And we begin by working hard to ensure that we got the trust of our development partners, and for Nigerians, we quite believe that their trust is something that will go not immediate until they have seen what we have delivered and what we have achieved in terms of making it better for the life of average Nigerian. And then going forward also, we realize that there is uncoordinated approach in terms of doing things between national and subnational level. And we have to call a round table of all humanitarian actors within the country, and we sat down, we look at the issues, and we subject those issues to some committee, some committees that will further go and develop it, to disintegrate it into various components of the country, so that we know in which area, in this area, what are the components causing poverty, and in the other area, what are the components causing poverty, so that we can have a holistic approach of all the issue in terms of this thing. And then with that, we also conclude that in the next few days to come, we are going to have a national humanitarian and poverty reduction summit here in Abuja, so that we can also further galvanize support and develop a document that all of us can work and adopt it together as a working document that has been developed not at a federal level but a national one that emanated from the lowest level of governments to the federal level. And also in doing that, once we do that, we also subject that to National Council of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction in the country, which has never held before. And lack of that council has really brought an issue that the country cannot go in a pattern of a better collaboration and partnership. Now, in terms of reducing the reaching out to people, we'll also review our short-term and long-term measures. The short-term measures is the ongoing rapid cash transfer, response cash transfer, the conditional cash transfer that is ongoing. We review where we are and what are the shortcomings. And the shortcomings there, the data there was that there is no evidence of digital identity that you can use to verify those households that you have reached out to. So in order to do that, we quickly swing into action. And I want to tell you that as of today, a lot has been achieved. And then we realized that at that time, only 1.4 million Nigerians who are in the National Social Register that has been reached out by their with rapid conditional cash transfer. And therefore, based on the fact that we have swung into action, we have gotten more people with digital identity. And as of today, I'm able to say that since we got in the last few weeks, months that will come, we have reached almost 5,658,000 Nigerians who are in the National Register that are vulnerables, and as of today also, the conditional classifier continues pari passu with the ongoing updating the National Social Register and And then we have also gone ahead to develop a durable solution for the youth that we are coming 5th of May. We are going to commence nationwide training. And we are choosing 3 areas: the renewable energy, automobile, and agriculture. And we have zoned this country in 6 geopolitical zones. The inaugural edition will be done in Lagos, which
we hope. We hope that, well, next we have you, will be able to, record some progress. I believe the target is 25 million Nigerians that is to be targeted with the conditional transfer scheme. But speaking of assets taking, Honorable Minister, the former Federal Commissioner for the National Commission for Refugee, Migrants and Displaced Persons, after FEC some 2 years ago, had briefed the press and talked about the construction of resettlement cities, which is said at that time was at 70% completion stage, to be built in Kano, Katsina, Borno, Zamfara, and Nasarawa, and I believe in Edo State. I'd like you to brief us on what the state of construction of these resettlement cities is at, and what was budgeted for the construction of these resettlement cities, and what is the plan really, to get internally displaced persons to resettle in these resettlement cities in the absence of their inability of government to resettle them in their ancestral land?
Well, the program is ongoing, and I'm about to say that also it's part of the meeting we are going to have tomorrow. And for us, we have repatriated even the refugees from the Chad Republic in Borno to Borno State, and a lot of them are those that have repatriated have been hosted by the in their various areas, and most of them in those houses that were constructed. So also we are going into other states that we are going to do that. So in our meeting tomorrow, we are going to look at the issue of this. Though we know that there is a funding internally, and also we are looking, most of our partners' support also has really gone down because of issue of the, in your introduction, you have mentioned the donor fatigue, and also most importantly, the statement by the American government that funding to all those supportive organizations is likely to reduce drastically. So we look at that, and for us, we also look at domestically, how much can we raise, and then to also seek for a special intervention, which we are also going to discuss that tomorrow from Mr. President, so that those houses will be completed. But meanwhile, we have to know that also in various states are also doing their own part. So it's a collective effort, and that's why I mentioned the current approach there is to hasten and improve collaboration and trust between us and the subnational level, so that we can work together to ensure that the internally displaced person has reason to this. And this is also very good. If you look at how much we've been doing between internally displaced person, state, and this. And this is also where we said that in doing that, there is nothing that has to do with personal nature of the state. Let me, for instance, I was in Plateau State. Yeah,
quite a number of issues that you have raised, and I know that there's a job of work for you to do, but in a few seconds, the World Bank has projected that 56% of Nigerians will be in poverty by 2027. That's a rise from the 47% that will be below poverty line in 2023. Do you agree with this World Bank projection that 57% Nigerians will be in poverty by the time it is time for a re-election for President Tinubu?
You see, predictions are quite different from reality. Prediction for us is to serve as a wake-up call, to see how much government can do to abut the realization of what was predicted. So, and in doing that, Mr. President is conscious that definitely there is need for more effort to be put in terms of savings, dignity and prosperity of Nigerians. And you find that really the current approach in the country is not one solo approach.
I know, Dr. Sununu, my question is, do you agree with that projection? If you don't, what is your projection? Because we're totally out of time. We just want to put that out there.
You see, I said prediction. You understand? Okay, if you remember when I was in the House of Representatives, I was here. And we have discussed about the prediction of World Health Organization in terms of mortality that will be seen in the Nigeria, most especially as a result of COVID.
Right.
And I was able to say that that is a prediction. Let's see how much the country can work. And in the end, we now say that our work has it stopped the prediction to see it to become reality. And you believe, I will say also again, to tell you that the prediction was just a prediction.
All right.
And the extent of the mortality that was predicted, we haven't witnessed that because,
well, Dr. Sununu, we have to wrap up now.
Nigerian government has worked hard.
Yeah, we have to wrap up now.
So we also work hard to ensure that the prediction did not see the light of the day.
So you disagree with the prediction?
I'm saying we work hard to ensure that the prediction did not see the light of the day.
So what is your target? What is your target,
COVID,
Dr. Sununu? What is your target? If it's not 56%, what's the target?
To uplift Nigerian prosperity.
All right.
And stand by our party, listen that 100 million Nigerians will be lifted out of poverty by 2030.
The Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs
and
Poverty Reduction, Dr. Yusuf Sununu, thank you for your time. We look forward to 2027 and what that year will hold for Nigeria. Thank you for your time once again.
Thank you very much. And once more,
well, we'll take a quick break now. When we return, we'll get back to the May Day commemoration in a moment. And we have one of the former heads of labor unions in Nigeria joining us in a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back. So let's talk about the Labor Day. We're joined in the program by Mr. Mechi Asugwon. He's a former deputy president of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Mr. Asugwon, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
On my way to work, I would like your response to this. On my way to work, I had some people calling the radio station I like to listen to, and they were saying there's really nothing much to celebrate because we've done an analogy to the effect that whatever you were earning, say, in the last 2 or 3 years, in dollar terms, is perhaps the same thing you're earning today, even if your salary has been increased by 100% because of the devaluation of the naira, or the flotation as it is called. In fact, in some cases, it's even less than what you were earning. And the labor had agreed to certain terms, I think last year, to the effect of 70,000 naira. Some are paying, some are not paying. So from where you sit and your overview, is there a reason for workers to mark this day? And if they do, what should be the language to the government?
Yes, happy Workers' Day to Nigerian workers and workers all over the world. I stand to correct the impression created by those workers that made such calls possibly on your way to work. But I tell you that the celebration you see us activate and reactivate on a yearly basis has more to do with the struggle of our heroes past, which we continue to build over the years. It tells you that the reason to mark Workers' Day is to keep a remark of what was done in terms of struggle, how workers paid a huge price with their lives. Nothing came accidentally. Every achievement that you see workers benefit today, the issue of workers' salary is secondary when we talk about workers' value. Dignity of workers in the workplace has less to do with what they pay them. And therefore, in as much we promote good pay for work done,
the first thing that a worker needs in a place of work is respect. And that is what people got through struggle. People got maternity leave of women, so you, after birth, you should be at home to take care of your child and still get salary. Some of this struggle that we got for annual leave, that people must work for 12 months and still get a time to rest in a year. Those are the values we celebrate. We celebrate values of workers, that workers can gain work break. In working for 12 hours or 8 hours, there is a time to rest. All of these things we are gotten lawfully in a manner that today workers enjoy them freely. So we use these days to remember those heroes past that paid this price and the price we are paying today for the generation to come. So that each time we celebrate, there's always something to talk about. So I tell you that workers' message to government should continue to be on improvement. Improvement means you are somewhere and you want a better place. Improvement also reflects that yes, last year minimum wage was celebrated. Unfortunately, eluded by inflation does not mean that the increase was bad. It only means that government has to do more. So our target and our belief is that Nigerian workers, especially the leadership, must continue to advance the call for welfare improvement, because there's no limit to it until the economy is stabilized. In as much we are not in control of the market price, because all the goods we consume majorly are imported. Therefore means that the currency and the value of Naira is less important now, because if what you need to eat is possibly imported through the value of dollar, the 70,000 minimum wage today, I tell you, is already being overwhelmed by consumption of workers. But that does not make it useless. It only means that government should do award. Minimum wage cannot come until 4 or 5 years. But what can come every year or every month and any time necessary is for government to do wage award. It is important that Mr. President consider another wage award as a sign of commitment, as a sign of sensitivity to the plight of workers, especially on a day like this. Because whether you like it or not, subsidy is gone. But they must also do everything humanly possible, especially lawfully, to activate refineries that will give hope to a common Nigerian. Workers are hopeful, because whether you like it or not, it is the money in their hand that makes the economy functioning. And when workers complain, the entire people complain. I believe there is still a good news for Nigerians, because hope is not lost. And to the best of my knowledge, the more we speak, the more action government must take. Because democracy is about the people, and the people can do nothing in democracy than to speak.
Mr.
Expression is one of the best ways to get government attention.
All right, Mr.
In regard like this.
Let's make good use of our time as we expand the conversation and look at the role of labor itself in ensuring that there is hope for Nigerian workers. This morning we started off by reminding the executives that they are yet to commit, a handful of them are yet to commit to the payment of the minimum wage. But what about the role of labor in ensuring that this is a reality? And we could even go back to the agreements that labor signed with the federal government in 2023, although some of them have been overtaken by events, but there are still some that government is yet to actualize. We could talk about the provision of funds for the purchase of high-capacity CNG buses, a lot of which have not been seen in many states of the Federation, and in fact, the continuing increase, depending on the price of crude oil in the international market and what obtains at home, continuing increase in the pump price of petrol. Some would say that labor's voice has been hollow in actualizing the demands of workers, and indeed, labor cannot be trusted to take up the cause of workers. How do you respond to this?
Yes, I agree carefully that Nigerian economy is not stable. And when we talk about workers' labor commitment to driving the affairs in terms of representation, I believe they have more to do. Again, let me correct the impression. My name is Comrade Asogoni, Amechi Asogoni. So beyond that, I want to emphasize that the issue of labor vis-a-vis Nigerians must be put in the right perspective. I agree. Trade unions have the obligation, and that obligation is expected that they meet that very duty on daily basis. And when you consider the rate of fuel today, when we know that fuel is a determinant for production, determinant for transportation, determinant for consumption, and therefore you cannot do much in the economy if you don't regulate the price of PMS fairly. I call, using this platform, to call on Nigerian workers, to call on the leaders of Nigerian workers to ensure that our philosophy, our resolution to ensure that we put government in check must never be de-emphasized. We will do this because it's our obligation. But as of today, Nigerian workers are still prevailing. Don't forget, there are certain policies that have been withdrawn as a result of workers' resistance. People only complain of what they suffer today. They don't appreciate what has been averted from being suffering. And I know that last year, including early this year, there were policies that would have made life harder, but eventually notification from labor leaders or organized labor, in that, as the case may be, actually shielded that away. So if government has withdrawn some of these difficult policies and tried to bring in labor, issue of tariff, repeatedly, they have always wished to increase, and labor has always cautioned, because we are still talking about one issue.
Right.
You are bringing additional one to it. So I want to believe that fairly, May Day is a time for review, and part of the review is that labor leaders must take up this struggle to ensure that refinery works as a means of bringing down the price of petrol.
All right, Mr. Asugoni, we're going to be looking at the Eagle Square and several centers across the country to hear what the demands or the new demands of labor will be today that is set aside to celebrate workers. Amechi Asugoni, former Deputy President of the NLC, thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, I'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll switch gears now to the education sector, talking about WAEC CBT. What is it all about? We'll bring you up to speed after the break. Join us again.
Welcome back. Don't forget, it's still Labor Day, May Day, and we're still keeping our eyes on celebrations across the country. We'll be bringing you update on how it is being marked in Abuja, the federal capital. But in the meantime, let's make progress as we look at, other aspects of national life. This time around, we're, looking at the planned introduction of the CBT, that's a computer-based test into the West African Examination Council exams for Nigerian students. And to help us on this conversation, we have the very man who should know himself, Dr. Amos Josiah Dangote, who is the head of National Office, West African Examination Council. He's right there in our Abuja studio. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much. I wish you a very good morning, too.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. So it's being celebrated, the CBT test has been celebrated as, eliminating what seems to be the big problem in our approach to conducting examination, and that is examination malpractice. And we've seen how it has, transformed results with the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board exam, JAM. But one would ask, why it has taken WAEC this long to introduce it into its own approach to testing students. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, help us understand the level of readiness in terms of provision of infrastructure, because this is a large-scale exam for students across Nigeria to sit for this exam as we prepare for it. How ready is WAEC with the infrastructure required?
All right, thank you very much. You have asked about 3 questions. I wish we take it sequentially. So let's start with why and how long it took us to come on board conducting a computer-based examination. And this examination, in our own case, is the West African Senior School Certificate Examination. You will have to consider the type of examination that we offer. We conduct an achievement assessment. That is to say, after 6 years of learning, you will have to now sit for the examination, which will assess all forms of your learning. So it is not just one aspect of it. For example, the other examining body, let me just mention JAM. JAM just measures in the multiple choice question, that is the OBJ. The objective type of questions are simple and easy to administer on the computer. Whereas if you really want to assess the achievement of a child, a candidate, you really have to assess other aspects. And that has to do with his practical proficiency. You will also need to measure his ability to write. So it goes into essay assessment of the essay part of the examination. So you have basically 3 components. You will measure his performance as in certain aspects, subjects like music. You will measure their oral proficiency, such as we have in Arabic and French. You will measure their practical application, the dexterity with which they carry out their task, and then you also have to administer the essay questions to really be able to find out how they are able to comprehend, evaluate, and synthesize effectively. So these are the reasons why it has taken us this long. And I must point out here that we have not yet come to a stage where we'll adapt the CB assessment 100%, because right now we have come to a stage where the objective questions are displayed on the screen and the answers are also provided on the computer. Whereas for the practical and the AC, the questions are displayed on the screen, whereas candidates are now given the answer booklets to supply their answers in. So that is it. So if we may move to your next question, how prepared are we for this examination? You will recall that WAEC started the private, the CB was for private candidate examinations. We have done it for the first series, the second series, and the federal government has seen the good aspect in it. I hope time will allow us to talk about it. And so they called all the examining bodies and directed. In fact, the federal government wanted us to continue, to do this forthcoming school candidate exam 2025 computer-based. But the infrastructure on ground and the level of preparedness was not good enough, and the infrastructure also. So we discussed with the ministry, and they graciously allowed that come November, December 2025, beginning with the private candidate second series, all examinations by all examining bodies will have to conduct the exam on the computer. However, for us in WAEC, because we already have some level of competence, we sought permission and obtained permission from the government to do a hybrid. So to say that some schools in this ongoing examination will do the traditional pen and paper mode, whereas a few schools that have the facilities will actually take the computer-based examination. So that is what is playing out on the field right now. Okay, so if I may get the third question you asked.
I know you deal with questions and answers a lot, so you're very methodical in answering those questions. And yes, It's very important to understand the process because we'll have our young children and wards writing these exams in the coming months. So it's good to lay the cards on the table. But I want you to walk through the extent of the CBT for these exams yet again, just so nobody is confused on what to expect. Because you talked about the MCQ, JAM is basically multiple choice, so it's easy to do CBT. But for your examinations, it's beyond just multiple choice questions. You mentioned practical, you mentioned oral and the rest, even though we have in other climes oral examinations being administered via computer. But walk us through the scope. Which one would be CBT? Which one would be pen and paper? Let's be clear on what to expect.
All right, thank you very much. I must indicate here that the school candidate examination commenced the 24th of last month, April. So the exam is already on course. What we have right now, like I said, for schools that have not yet prepared the infrastructure for the exam, they are doing it using pen and paper. But for a few schools that already have the facilities, what they are having right now is that the objective questions are projected on the computer, and they also answer the questions on the computer. However, for other papers, the components of the subject, let me give the example of performance in music and in physical education. We will still have it being done either in the studio, as in the case of music, or on the field for physical education, where assessors are there physically to evaluate the performance. Now, for practical subjects, take, for example, physics, chemistry, biology, agric, and the rest. The questions will be beamed on the computer. However, the candidates will be given the answer booklets. The specimens and the equipment will be provided in the laboratory. So each candidate will have a set of these specimens and equipment to himself or herself. The questions will be read from the computer. The candidate carries out the assessment, the practical test, and then records the answers in the answer book that has been provided. Now, we are working, actually, in the very near future. We believe that the facility will be there, the technology will be there for candidates to even write the essay papers, the essay component, in the computer rather than using pen and paper. So that is where we are now.
So the whole idea for this now is about expanding the ability to be flexible with examining the students and also to fight examination malpractice. So maybe let's backtrack a bit. So what informed this innovation? How bad was the level of malpractice that the commission sought out to this direction to say, okay, if we involve CBT in these particular exams that we do, just like JAM does, we'll be able to curb this by a certain percentage. So I'm asking for data now, basically. How bad was the level of malpractice, and what do you foresee in terms of forecast that this will do to scale down? Because it sounds like a great idea, but until it is properly implemented, I know you've done some, but it has room for improvement.
All right, thank you once again. I want to say in 2023, we recorded a malpractice rate of about 16% in the school candidate exam, whereas in last year, 2024 school candidate examination, the malpractice rate was about 11.6%. So you could say that there has been a gradual clamp down on examination malpractice. But that is as far as the school candidate exam is concerned. And for the private candidate examination, the first attempt that we had when we deployed technology to conduct the examination, we had a malpractice rate of about 0.8%. Now, I want to point out that that was a great feat, because internationally it is taken that a malpractice rate of 1% is tolerable, so to say is acceptable. And I also have to add to it that in the second deployment of technology to conduct the exam, in the private candidate exam that was conducted January 2024, the rate of malpractice dropped to about 0.4%. So from these figures, I want you to note that even in the pen and paper examination, WAEC has stepped up its fight against malpractice, such that we had a drop from 16% to about 12%. And in the computer-based examination, it dropped from about 0.8% to about 0.4%. So this is clearly an attestation to the fact that the use of technology in conduct of exam will be a great tool in combating examination.
I needed you to put that on record, because I was coming up with another question as to when you do all of this. Let's talk about the rural areas. We have concerns about broadband penetration. We have concerns about computer literacy. How is the commission managing persons who maybe are in the village, who are quite smart, perhaps, in the villages who are writing this? Does it apply to villages as well? Who, just generally, how do you do it in rural areas who don't have the infrastructure that people have in the city centers?
All right. I would tell you that many studies have been carried out on computer literacy, including a study conducted by my humble self in 2018. That was a study to find the computer literacy skills of students in SS3. That study showed that students have computer literacy skills. And you also realize that computer is being taught even right from JSS level to SS level. So there is the computer literacy skill there. And you also agree with me that other examination body in Nigeria has also deployed it, and there has never been any problem with that. Now, in our own case also, in the first instance, we provide an opportunity for candidates to test themselves using the technology we are deploying. We usually do that a few days to the examination, and then in use of the technology itself, there are options there. So you have very easy ways of navigating through the questions, so that does not even require you to be a computer expert. Once you can use your phone, you can actually use it. So that is as much as that. Then coming to the infrastructure that will support the use of this technology. For example, the unsteady internet, the bandwidth you talked about, and some other infrastructure required. Like I said, we have conducted for private candidate examination. We didn't have problem, except for on one instance when the infrastructure in Borno, Maiduguri, was down. So we quickly made an arrangement, and that took care of the situation. So we are also currently exploring other alternative methods of having network infrastructure. I also need to let us know that our examination is well secured. It is not virtual, it's not available online, so to say. And so because of that, there is no fear of hackers going in to disrupt our assessment process.
Well, there's a big concern about the rural areas where broadband penetration is concerned. And I wonder if your explanation covers sufficiently that concern, because there are areas in the hinterland where there's practically no network, and the concern also about the lack of computer proficiency of the students. So will there be sort of a mock conducted for them in partnership with centers in the cities, such that they can be prepared for these exams, and we don't record mass failure if they're not tested before the actual day of the exam?
Okay, like I earlier said, we provide the opportunity for candidates to test themselves on the environment. In fact, what we did was that you could either use your handset, or you could use the computer or the laptop to do it, because like I said, it's a very, very easy application, and it's adaptable for use by all, whether they are computer literate or not. We have done that even for this school candidate examination that is already on. For the schools that enrolled for the computer assessment, that opportunity was provided their candidates, wherein they logged in using any of the device that is available to them. Now, when you talk of penetration and availability in rural areas, I must point out that the private candidate examinations that we deployed this technology were in the urban centers. They were in the cities. So we didn't have problem with that. And even with the schools that are doing this computer-based exam for the school candidate exam, they have access to internet. Now, when the fear will then come when we deploy to all schools across the country. The federal government has come up with a plan that the examination should move from being a school-based examination to a center-based examination. And what that means is that the model, the platform, the pathway through which I will have to use this examination body again, through which JAM administers its examination, is the same infrastructure that we will also ride on. So you will also realize that in that method, or in that system, there are designated examination centers scattered throughout Nigeria. So the infrastructure already exists. So these are the infrastructure that come 2026, we are also going to ride on. And I also need to say here that all examination bodies will deploy CBYs, and they will use the same infrastructure as has been agreed to by the federal government and all the examination bodies.
And by every standard, it's a major shift, and we hope that there'll be successes recorded in learning outcomes for the students following the successful experimentation of this approach to testing for proficiency and for achievement, as you have said. We've been talking with Dr. Amos Josiah Dangote, is the head of National Office, West African Examination Council, Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Dangote.
Thank you very much. I'm excited for being with you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Nigerians, too. All right.
And from here, we move to the softer side of things. We'll see a lot of colors as we explore the world of pointillism in art. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
We're joined by Cataract Chinyu. As you can see, she's a visual artist and a curator with Nikkei Art Gallery, Abuja. Good morning, Cataract. You're welcome to the show. I know your area of specialty is, well, some call it pointillism. For some others, it's pointillism. I don't know which you choose to call it, but I know it's basically using tiny dots of paint to show art. If you can hear me, Katurag. So speak to us about what pointillism or pointillism, as the case may be, is all about.
Okay, as you have heard, my name is Katurag Chinyo, and I'm a painter, and I do pointillism. Now, the purpose for using pointillism is to do something different from the regular realism kind of paintings, where I use dotted colors, intentionally placed, strategically placed, I'll put it that way, to bring out forms, images, and for visual appreciations.
That's beautiful. And, you know, it's almost like you're using picture elements or pixels, as they say, to form the big picture. So it takes, I would say it takes patience. It takes being very meticulous. I mean, look at that. You can't just use your brush and just, you know, paint one stroke. You have to use tiny. So how hard is it? Because I imagine having to stay there just doing tiny dots. It's a real test of patience, isn't it?
Well, basically, I love art. I enjoy making art pieces, so I don't see it as something really stressful. Most times, I just keep doing that, and it takes my mind off whatever I might be going through. It's more like a form of therapy. It's something I love doing. I love colors, so placing those dots is just fun for me, to be honest.
That's great to hear. I think everybody should take a class in pointillism. It might help you to distress, cut through that anxiety and all. But I'd like you to speak to how this is being accepted, because I also see an element of abstract in your work, right? So you've chosen a very interesting themes to pass your own art across. So what is the acceptance like?
Okay, yeah, I chose abstract because I've actually worked with galleries, and I'm a very attentive person. I hear clients coming and be like, I can't buy somebody's face and keep in my house when I have a wife or I have children or I have a husband. Abstracts are more acceptable, so that's why I stick to abstract realism, actually. And I'm a deeply emotional person, so if you look at my artworks, you would see those emotions there. I like to paint my figures with closed eyes. It speaks a lot on the emotions. When you close your eyes, you're devoid of every distraction around you. You can truly see or feel what is within. Now, abstracts are easily accepted by people. That's why I basically focus on the abstract. But I also do portrait arts on request. But for what I love doing, I love to portray the abstract paintings.
That's beautiful. I'm trying to close my eyes now, Katurag, to just picture, envision what is coming. A lot of things are coming through my mind right now, and I think top on that list would be Nigeria. It is May Day and all of that. So if you had a blank canvas in front of you, and maybe you've done that before, what kind of emotions would you project onto that canvas if you were to tell a story of Nigeria in that sense, as of today?
Oh, a story of Nigeria as of today. To be honest, that's deep. You need to give me time to think of that.
It's okay.
Well, Nigeria.
Take your time. Take your time.
Okay, I will say a story of Nigeria is a busy street with people hustling and trying to make a living. It's going to basically be a market scenery with so many people trying to make money one way or another, because basically that's what's happening.
That's beautiful. I'd love to see an art, you do something like that if you've not done that already, because I imagine you've done a lot. Do artists lose count of their work, or do you have that emotional attachment? You can say, well, I've done 644, you know, just as a parent to tell you, I have 10 children, they can always count. How does it work with artists? Are you always emotionally attached to your work such that you keep a count mentally, or once you're done, it's sold, you move on to the next one? How does it work with you?
Well, I think it varies per artist. Personally, I wouldn't say I have an exact number, but I have close to an exact number, and most artists are emotionally attached to their arts. That's true. Very emotionally attached to their art. I've found it difficult to sell particular art pieces, but the ones I have on ground, I am always aware of the number and where they are, if they're in a gallery, if they are with me, or whatever. So it depends per artist.
Beautiful. So tell us, where are your, I don't know if I can call them your children, maybe that's stretching it too far, but how far have they gone? And that's to speak to just how you've been able to, well, I say sell your art, how far across the world have you been able to reach with the beautiful work that you do?
Okay, I think I have some of my babies, like you call them, in the US, yeah, and then I have in the UK, and I have across Nigeria. I have in Kaduna, Abuja, Lagos, which I am very sure of. I don't know where others have traveled to, because I can't keep tabs of my clients and their current locations, but this few I know.
And that's beautiful to see, really. Your work has a touch of class. There's emotions as well. It's just, you can just tell that there's something powerful behind this art. And as you said, you're a deeply emotional person, so it's understandable. But we have to thank you for your good work. I was tempted to ask what to do if I want to become as good as you, but maybe we'll have that session another time. We'll be speaking with Katura Chinyo, visual artist. Her area of specialization is pointillism. She also does portraits. She's also a curator with Nikkei Art Gallery, Abuja. Thank you so much, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You'll love to see Bukola as an abstract, pointillism.
Yeah, it'd be lovely to see all three of us as abstracts as well, because we have become some form of abstracts. Beautiful ones, though, in your life. And this is where we touch them.
No, Bukola, we're real, but we have to anchor at this point. Forgive us, we just talked art. But it's been a pleasant show. It's May Day here in Nigeria, so stay with us right here on Channels Television as we cover all of the angles. I'm Kayode Okikule.
Yes, indeed. Enjoy the May Day celebration, and remember, you are valued beyond what you get. I'm Bukola Koka.
I want to say a big shout out to Mighty George, who has broken the record, attempting to break that record. It's 88 hours of radio show. He's done about 104 hours now in Akwa Ibom. We're going to have him on the show someday after this record-breaking exercise. Thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Bye-bye.